Well, the fan clutch on this bad boy decided to go on me. So I'm going to start the process of changing it. There's 4 bolts for the fan shroud. I got to get my intake off. It's custom. And you got to drain the radiator fluid below the upper radiator hose. So that's what I'm going to do right now. So when you're draining it, take off the radiator cap. And if you're like me and plan on reusing your coolant because it's brand new, make sure you have a nice clean bottle to catch it in. I got mine in a distilled water bottle that doesn't have any water left in it. And there's a little dealio right down there that you can turn. And the fluid's getting pretty close. Actually, it should be right about there. Alright, so after you get the fan shroud off, those 4 bolts, you're going to take a number 10. You're going to loosen up all those nuts. And then after that, you have to loosen up the bolt on the alternator bracket. So you can loosen up that serpentine belt. After you get the bolts off the nuts off, you slide the fan clutch off. There's 4 bolts on the front of it that you're going to remove the fan. And just like that, you have your fan clutch. This one's only about a year old, but it went bad on me. So it's still under warranty, so I'm just going to go trade it in for a new one, and you're going to put it back together in reverse order. Not too super hard. Alrighty, so for reassembly of the fan clutch, you're going to take your fan that you just took the bolts out of. You're going to line it up with the bolt holes, if you can, just like that. You're going to take the supplied hardware, if they gave it to you, or just use the old hardware. Make sure you have the locking washers, and put it together. I like to use a little impact gun thing, and that takes care of that. Okay, so I forgot to mention earlier, when you get the bolts in, before you put them with an impact wrench, if you're using one, make sure you start them by hand. These are made out of aluminum, or these fan clutches are, so they're really easy to sort of not strip out but cross thread. But what you're going to do next, you're going to put it back onto the studs and start getting the nuts there put in by hand. It's really hard, really tight, but it can be done. So we're going to work on that next. Okay, so after you get them started by hand, what you want to do next is you're going to tighten up the serpentine belt, the alternator again, by sliding it over as far as you can. Sometimes you can use a crowbar or something or pry bar to tighten it up. I'm just going to do it by hand, and then you're going to go back and retorque all these tight, and double check that the alternator is going to be tight, or that the belt is going to be tight. And then you get to start the reassembly with the fan shroud and everything, then re-adding in your coolant. If yours is good like mine, then you can just reuse it, as long as you put it in a clean container. And then the job's going to be done. I'll be back when it's done. Alrighty, I got it almost all put back together. It's a really simple job. If you don't have to wait for parts like I had to, you can get it done probably about a half hour, maybe a little less time. But yeah, some people put Loctite on those bolts down there on the fan clutch. I don't, because they're hard enough to get off as is. And also, I forgot to mention, make sure you tighten them in a star pattern. I also suggest coming back and retorquing them after 100 miles or so, maybe. So, yeah, that's about the end of it. I'm just going to add in my coolant, and it's good to go.